The title is How the World Has Caught Up to USA Basketball. Did the world actually catch up?
Was that game, and yeah, I think that's just part of the game, and I enjoy that part of the game. Honestly, obviously that game was not super enjoyable, but if it was personal, I mean, he's the only one that can speak to that. But I'll take that as a compliment. I'd say, yeah.
This aspect of the read and react, practicing without dribbling, all the stuff that gets taught in international countries versus how kids, I think, grow up playing in 90% of youth programs in the United States. It seems like there's a big adjustment when U.S. players go and play in FIBA.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, defensively. Is there anything specific because you've lived now in both, obviously. Is there anything specifically that you think is the hardest part for an American player going to play in a World Cup or an Olympics against a really good international team?
I mean, I think you could see it a little bit. I think if you look at, that semifinal game, you look at the two teams on paper, there's no question who should win, right? Well, I think you can see there's some situations where like somebody on the German team, if it's me, if it's Dennis, another player, there's some tough buckets being made. But the gist of why we won is simple basketball, getting a switch, how do you duck in, feeding the post, playing out of that, cutting off the ball. Like it's
I think what we're seeing is at least on the world scale, the FIBA scale, the Olympic scale, is the importance of continuity, chemistry, and coaching. Because and also role players knowing how to play roles on a team. Cause and this is a combination of actually a lot of things. So everything I just said, and with the combination of the world just being more talented than what it was 20 years ago, right? Even 10 years ago, I would argue. When the when Team USA forms, you're talking about dudes who have been franchise cornerstones since high school, right? For the most part. Franchise cornerstones since middle school, damn near. And then they go to the national game, and now you have to play a role. You have to play a role. You have to be the seventh man. You have to be the fourth option. You have to be the third option. When you just came off a season where for 82 games plus the playoffs, you were the number one option every fucking possession, right? So that's a big adjustment that a lot of USA players, in my opinion, are having a lot of trouble with when it comes to world national basketball, international basketball play, that overseas players just don't have much of a problem with. And also, they play more games together with their national teams than within the NBA, you know? Like, the only time NBA stars really play together is rec runs, off-season runs, not rec runs, just off-season runs, the All-Star game maybe, you know? But overseas players, depending on the country, they play together much more often. So they develop chemistry. The coaching is much more cohesive. There's not as big of a training arc to it. The talent is getting better as well. So
it's not the crazy schemes. It's not crazy individual play. You need some of that too in FIBA, especially at the end of games. But I think that's the biggest difference with, like, in terms of how we played. And I mean, it's like anything else. The American players, the NBA players, aren't necessarily super used to that style of play, so it's hard for them to adjust in those moments.
One thing I observed, and this wasn't just the German team. I think there's a number of teams that did this well in the World Cup. But, let's say you have an ATO in the NBA. By the way, I'm not complaining about any of this. I'm just pointing out some things I've observed that are different. That's all. Let's say there's a ATO in the NBA after timeout play. You might try to get a matchup, right? all right, we're going to run a step up on the right side, and we're going to get so-and-so to switch on Tatum. Or we might say, like, all right, we're going to have Tatum at the top, and D. White's going to bring his man up and ghost screen Tatum to his right hand. Let's see what happens, right? The scripted plays for these fucking teams in FIBA, it's like 5 different actions to get to one last thing that's what you're actually looking for. That, to me, was the craziest thing to watch. And again, not a knock on Steve Kerr. I'm just pointing this out. You watched our ATOs or our set pieces, and it was like 2 very different things. It was like watching 2 different sports at times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the coaching piece,
Shout out to Alberto for the 3 months, man.
I
Appreciate
think it's
it.
just a very different approach to how to coach and, how to just approach the game, I would say. I will say that that's something that, like, I had to, like, or, like, I re-noticed, I would say, because I grew up playing like that. Then I went to college. We played different. In the NBA, we played different. And when I came back for my first year for a national team, I was like, yo, this is nice. This is a lot of fun to play like this because it makes, like, if you can execute those plays, you don't need to make step-back threes and make tough shots all game. Like I said, I think you do need that at the end of the game sometimes, but that part of thinking the game and how coaches can set up players and make them look really, really good, I think that part is really fun of the FIBA game.
Yeah. To answer the question though, I think the world has not caught up to USA. Well, I'll say this: I think the world as a whole has caught up to USA basketball. I will say that. Is that a hot take? It is what it is. The whole world, when you stack, if there was a Team USA versus a Team World, I would honestly take Team World at this point, especially if Canadians don't count towards Team USA, which they shouldn't. But I don't know. Just in my head, I feel like North America is like, specifically Canada, and there's a lot of overlap there, but it is what it is. Like, if Team World can get SGA, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic, a couple other names on there, Team World got it. But I think in terms of, because when it comes to Olympic play, it's going to be country by country. When it comes to FIBA play, country versus country. I don't think there is a single country that stacks up against USA still. At some point, there is a talent diff. At some point, listen, coaching can only take you so much. And we'll see. This year, we will see. We will see. Especially if the names that I might be playing for Team USA will play. We'll see how big that diff is. And if Team USA actually does lose, boy, we got to have some conversations. Like, for real, if Team USA loses this year, we have to have some conversations. Because if Team USA does not win gold this year with the talent that they're supposed to have, that tells me that the coaching gap and the philosophy gap overseas is so huge to the point where it literally, the talent diff doesn't matter anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be a crazy realization. Or doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter as much. That would be a crazy thing to happen. And I think that is something that would really shake up the conversation within America and how basketball should be taught and how players should be developed. Like, for real.
I'm going to ask you a question, and this is just a question. This is not meant to offend anyone, okay? Do you think that some of the reason we don't have that in our game is maybe, I think naturally in the U.S. there's like that more of like an individual mentality, and I think we praise like scorers, we praise tough bucket getters, and truthfully, some of these motherfuckers are so good that you don't need to run 4 misdirections to create a good shot on offense. And I mean, even with this, USA basketball team, they practiced for 2 weeks. They went and played a few exhibition games. Obviously, it didn't work out for us, but like we were still in games,
right? Playing
that way. It wasn't like we were getting blown out by 50. So I think some of it is just like overall talent. This is not. I'm saying overall, top to bottom. You said on paper, right? 1 through 12, probably more talented, and so there's not that like desire, like need to like, oh, we got to play this way. Now, it bit us in the ass for sure.
Well, I want to point one thing.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
And this might be an unpopular opinion,
Uh-oh,
but this is not the first tournament where this has happened.
I agree.
Pod
Like, even
Wagner?
if Team USA won in
Pod
past
Wagner?
years, that was still very apparent. Even the legendary Kobe Bryant 2008 team, you can look back, I don't know what it was, but they didn't win the final by 20 points. They won by like 6 or 8 against Spain. Started Ricky Rubio, who's 17.
Chat, he's cooking?
I mean, that Spanish team is probably the
Chat, he's
epitome of
cooking?
what we just talked about,
Yeah.
like in terms of how European teams grow up playing. And so I'm not like the U.S. players individually. Like there's no argument who's the most talented country in basketball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially he just confirmed what I said. The talent gap has always carried USA in these conversations. And even in the 2000s, we've already seen like, yes, USA has that talent gap, but the coaching gap is pretty huge to the point where we can keep it close, but y'all are still talented as fuck, so y'all still got it. But now that the coaching gap is still damn near the same, if not in favor even more of the world, of other countries, but that talent gap is getting smaller. It is getting smaller. Now it's just getting scary. Now shit is getting fucking scary.
Wasn't I by the way, I think the gap for probably most every guy on your team and an NBA roster spot, if they so desired, is like this or this.
Yep.
Like that part of it is, I wasn't trying to knock the talent. I actually promised myself this was going to be a rant-free podcast,
Here we
and it's
go.
going to be, but I will know it's going to be.
Line it
But
up.
I do want to point out,
I
that
forgot
was
that
the
guy
one
existed.
thing that really got me heated. The reaction at home here was like, oh, we're supposed to be winning. We're supposed to be winning. And I'm like, no, guys. Like, since like 96, it's always been hard.
Right.
These teams, you guys have like caught up to us. You've caught up to us, and you're better than us in some ways.
Isn't that
It's the
just
truth.
Isn't that kind of just like people that don't know basketball history, though? I mean, we talk about this, but it's just like this is like to your point. This is not new. The question I had for you about your particular team and also what we're talking about is the connectivity with this particular roster and how
Yeah.
long you guys have. I mean, so how long with most of these guys, Mo aside, did you play together with them for?
Well, I only played with one guy, like when I was younger, that was on that team. And this was only the second time that I was on the men's national, like the senior national team. But the core of those guys, they've been playing together probably 5-6 years, I would say. Yeah, maybe even longer. Dennis has been playing for since 2013, something like that. Yeah.
No,
would
this is
be-
not Sengun,
not that you
bruh.
want to fix
This is not Sengun.
USA basketball, but it feels like a massive problem with USA basketball is it's different players every
That's
time.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, the whole approach to that, I think, is different. I'm not
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just a different thing. Like when we play European championships, like it's just a pride thing to be able to represent the country. And it's every year like that. Like I'm already excited to go play with them again because it's just a different vibe. It's none of the playing for money, playing for stats. It's very like it just feels like old classmates coming together for a summer and we're having a good time.
What did it mean for you, for your team, to win that gold medal?
I can't even put it into words. Like I don't think people from here understand like how big the gold medal was for not just the players that played, but for the whole German basketball community. Like
Nah, I feel that. I feel that. Cause I feel like if USA won gold, I ain't gonna lie, I don't think it would have even got that much coverage. It would have got coverage, but this would be another day in the USA. But boy, if the Philippines somehow won FIBA, specifically because we hosted it this year, bro, we would have went nuts. That would have been the biggest thing since Pacquiao won a fight. Like for real. Like that would have been the biggest thing since Prime Pacquiao was. Psh. To my Filipinos out there and to my non-Filipinos out there, y'all don't really know how big Pacquiao was in the Philippines. For real, for real. We used to stop shit when Pacquiao had a fight. For real. We used to host festivals when Pacquiao had a fight. Pacquiao fights were literally our Super Bowl.